I'd probably be the
about to live the rest of my life on 2 million cash.
straight
I'd be
gas.
totally happy.
Yeah, because I'm delayed, so I'm gonna kick McNeil out if he fucking pulls this shit.
Tony B 420 Pod. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Oh my god.
Hello, welcome to the 420 Show. I'm your host, Christian Methuen, here with my co-host, Pat from Amesbury, and a very, very, very special guest, Blind Mike.
It's an honor, boys. Thanks for having me. I don't know a ton about your show, but I do know I have to say a certain amount of Asian slurs. Is that right?
Well, we're actually missing the kid who's usually on the show, Tony. So
all right, I'll step it up.
Well, we're going to keep it to a minimum so that way we don't upset the CEO. That
yes, the dictator. Have you guys had problems with him since, or have you been okay?
We've been okay. I still refer to him as Pig Virus. I don't like to call him by his actual name that he likes to go by. And but no, we don't deal with him directly anymore. We deal with his
Yeah,
we
good.
deal
I like
with
Menor. He's very powerful now. He's got a lot of middlemen. That's good.
Yeah, so we just deal with her now, and it makes it a lot easier.
Okay.
So we generally, when we have people on this show that we put out to the KMN network, we generally ask like 3 basic questions, and then we fill time with whatever other stuff we can think of. But I know Pat has some specific topics he wants to get your opinion on because he's a big O&A guy and you're a big O&A guy. So I think he wants to talk to you a little bit about that. And I had a couple of Cullinane questions, so I thought we could just blow through our standard 3. And you could give them as little or as much attention as you like, and then we'll go on to other stuff.
Sure.
Okay. So our normal 3 questions are, as you can tell, we're weed guys. So, and I've heard you mention.
I've noticed.
I've heard. I'm a big Blind Mike show fan, and I've heard you mention the one time the high five drink.
Yeah.
You had mentioned. So my question to you was going to be when your first experience with weed might have been, then what your what was the second question, Pat? I just went blank.
I don't know.
Well, I can answer the first part if you like.
Okay, go ahead. You can go one at a time.
First experience, I was 15. I was with my 2 of my buddies. In the backyard of a friend's house, and they were like big potheads. I think I'd never smoked in my life, obviously, and I, both being blind and never having done it before, they were like, "Do you want to hit this?" It was a blunt, and I said, "Sure." And I was about to put it in my mouth the wrong way until Mike Salter slapped it out of my hand heroically. So, so it was almost tragic, but it went all right.
See, that's great because you got two of the standard questions out of the way because one of the other ones was going to be funny weed stories. So your first was the funny story. That's great.
Okay.
My other question would be, what's your favorite mode of consumption? So, well, you had mentioned the drinks.
Yeah, so I think those seltzers are probably it because I think it's also a good. The reason I mentioned it probably on my show was that I think it's like a good substitute for alcohol in the sense that it still gives you that social, you got something in your hand kind of thing, but they're 0 calories, so it helps you there as opposed to 115 for a light beer or whatever.
Absolutely.
And I don't smoke really at all now. I will take like an edible before bed once in a while. because they just put me right out, but that's about it. So yeah, I would say probably those seltzers.
Yeah, I enjoy edibles as well.
Where do you get those seltzers? At the dispensaries?
Yeah, they have them at most of the dispensaries now, I think.
And what's the dosage on that? It's like 5 milligrams usually, or something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, 5 milligrams.
So, which is good for me would be good for me because I usually take more than that. So, if you're talking in a social situation, you can have 2, 3, and be okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, to get an effect out of us with those seltzers, we'd have to drink like 20 of them.
Well, I don't understand. I apologize if you guys talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but I don't understand how like I've listened to Joey Diaz before.
Yep.
Right.
And he'll tell stories about taking like 1,000 milligrams. I don't understand. Obviously, I guess you just build up a tolerance over time, but to me, that doesn't. I would just fall asleep.
1,000 milligrams, you'd be sleep. I would be sleeping for 3 days straight. It'd be like a hibernation type thing.
50, I think I would get like that. Yeah.
50 is a good base for me. When I take 50, that's a pretty good base. I'm not too, messed up, but I'm also enjoying it. Anything over that, you're probably looking for nap time. At least for me. Chris has a little bit of a higher.
I like to get up to about 100. I used to go much higher. I used to try to get to that 1,000, and you can lose a weekend.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Like
so
literally,
are you guys smoke during the day? Will you smoke before work and that kind of shit, or is it purely like when you're not doing anything?
I'll take a few hits in the morning before I leave for the day.
Oh, really?
Just like 1 or 2. I don't like go crazy.
No, but you're functional on it. Like if I did that,
yeah.
If I did that, it's not even that I'd be like fucked up. It's that I'd be dozing off. I would fall like I can't do it publicly. I can do it if I'm sitting around watching a movie or going to bed. Basically, I can't go out and do something like that.
I'm pretty active in my job, so I would think it would probably be different if I was sitting at a desk all day looking at a computer screen. That might make it a little bit more challenging, just because you're just stable. You're not moving, but I'm always moving and doing stuff, so it kind of keeps me going.
Although, I'll say too, with those seltzers that I mentioned, they also have like energy drinks, which I don't feel like they give me energy necessarily, but they do balance me out a little more.
Right.
If I was going to do something.
Yeah, because the edibles is a body high, and it's way different than if you're just smoking regular weed or even
your body processes differently.
Yeah.
It gets in your bloodstream.
For me, I'm not a wake up in the morning and smoke anymore. I used to be that guy, but now I usually wait till I get home. I get home early enough in the afternoon where I'll come home, and like I did today, I came home, I went out on my deck, I packed the bowl a couple times, ate dinner, and now I'm talking to you fine gentlemen and hitting my pen.
Nice.
I mean, I wasn't always like that though. It's been more like the last 15 years. Even before that, when I was younger, the thought of smoking before going to work, like even though I was a pothead, it would be like, no, I can't do that because they'll know. Yeah. And then you just do it once and they don't know, and then you're like, I guess I'll just keep doing it then.
Yeah, I did it before school once in high school, and I remember thinking like I was very paranoid all day. So it's not something I would do again, but it was like it gave me a weird respect's probably the wrong word, but like kids that I know that did it every day, I was like, how do you fucking get through the days?
How do you function?
Yeah. And that's funny because the first time I ever smoked weed was in high school, like literally in the hallway. We had like a brass pen cap that we stuffed and we smoked it that way. Yeah, we were I went to a Vogue, so we were really, industrious with our materials if we had to be.
Nice.
And that was the first time I'd ever smoked. And I was so nervous just doing it that it obviously didn't affect me how it should have been. They always say the first time you smoke, you don't get high anyway. Right. But even with the addition of being somewhere where you shouldn't have been doing it to begin with, kind of like added to it. But I always like to say that's the first time I did it, at least.
But that makes it more fun when you're not supposed to be doing it. That's something that is missing from today's cannabis. It's no longer something you hide behind closed doors to do.
Oh, you guys are purists. You're weed purists.
Yeah, I want my weed to have sticks and stems, and I bought it from some sketchy guy in the corner who might rob me. Yeah.
I like that.
I want all that. That's a joke. So, Pat, did you have a O&A?
Well, so I listened to a lot of the Why Are You Laughings, especially the O&A ones, just because I go back to AAF with those guys. Sure. When I first started listening to them, I had the Demented World CD. I don't know if you ever had that or listened to that.
No, I'm aware of it. I know it was very cool. They were punching the earth, which is how you really knew they were bad boys at that time.
Well, Anthony's hair was all in different, like, it was just weird, but the evil Barney stuff on there, the parody songs, have you ever heard the butt plug prank call where you Anthony?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was on that CD too, and yeah, just stupid shit like that. Like they used to on AAF, they would just call people who had answering machines, and this was when you could, press 1 to rehear your recording. So
Right.
Anthony would just do a bunch of gibberish, and then they would play. And for some reason, that was the funniest thing. Maybe because I was 14, but that was the funniest shit in the world back then. And then obviously they did the whole Menino thing. So then they were gone, and I never got back up to them until they got syndicated back on BCN. And then I was with them until obviously Sucks for Sam. When did you start listening to them?
Well, I don't know if I would have enjoyed. I mean, I was too young to have listened to it when they were in
Right.
Massachusetts. But even if I were old enough, I don't think I would have enjoyed it because I have never been like the shock jock stuff. Never appealed to me really. Like
Sure.
some of it's interesting for sure, but I was never like, oh, the 55-gallon drum challenge or whatever the fuck it was. None of that stuff really interested me. I actually liked years later, like, you'll hear Opie now say like, oh, well, we knew the Opie and Anthony show was done before Anthony got fired. And to me, that was the best era because I more liked when they just had conversations, had funny comics in, busted balls, that sort of stuff.
And that's still what because I didn't like that. I didn't care for that 55-gallon drum challenge because that's more of a visual thing too. So you're trying to listen to that on the radio. You're just hearing their responses. And
that actually probably would have made it better for me, hearing them describe it. But
is that right?
No, but I know what you mean, though.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't. I did like it because they still did that type of riffing in the older show before they went to XM. So I enjoyed a lot of those bits when they would bring on. I think it was Retarded Laverne and Shirley, those ladies on there.
Yeah.
There was a guy called Frenchie who was on the old FM show that
I'm aware of
it. Yeah, he didn't translate well into the XM show, but he was hysterical when he would call in, and because you couldn't obviously say the words, so he would just be like, "You stupid F." And for me, that's almost funnier than hearing the words sometimes when you're listening to a radio.
So a lot of people said that about Stern, that like we actually in the Colin Quinn episode of Why Are You Laughing that we did, we played Quinn roasting Stern. Mm-hmm. And the joke was essentially, I won't deliver the joke, but the gist of it was that like, Howard, how many times are you going to mention that you're so much freer here at Sirius? And what's interesting about that is a lot of people would criticize the move to Sirius because people said, well, now Howard can say whatever the fuck he wants. So there's like, there's less creativity to it because he's not pushing any boundaries. He can just do whatever. And you kind of lose that war, the enemy that he had forever was like the FCC and corporate trying to take him down. So when he lost that, there was a little something lost, I think. I think for O&A, it actually worked better because, again, what they were doing, Howard kind of kept more of a radio format, whereas I think Opie and Anthony at a certain point just started talking for an hour and a half and then going to a commercial break, So I think it was a little better for them. But yeah, with Howard, it is like those bits and prank calls seem very like out of date because he's still doing shit like that. Like Richard and Sal are still on staff and everything.
Couldn't tell you the last time I listened to
Stan. So now it feels dated because we live in a world where you can just curse all you want. It doesn't matter. Right. It's not interesting or unique. So when Howard was kind of getting around those censors, it was more interesting.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Just crossing the line is better than going over it. So, Chris, you got some other comments about the show?
Yeah, well, I was interested to know. I had listened to the show today, and I thought it was funny that Kirk kept saying to Mike and Dave Cullinane that, oh, it's not awkward at all. I don't feel awkward at all. But I listened to the show the other day, and I could tell how awkward it felt, and I could just imagine what it was like sitting in your seat, Mike. What can you tell us about what was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, I think he meant more because I think he enjoys that style. He likes uncomfortable.
Sure.
I think he just knows it makes good podcasting. For me, it is weird because like I don't know what I'm not good in those tense moments, and there's like some stuff I did disagree with Dave about, like the idea that the Instagram account hadn't been active for 3 months. Like I find to be crazy, but I also feel awkward saying that. You know what I mean? So like I that's where like I get uncomfortable in moments like that, is like feeling like I'm piling on Dave. And that's why I think Kirk is obviously a great radio personality, because he doesn't give a fuck what people, if he's bothering someone or offending them or making them uncomfortable, he just goes for it and says what he's thinking.
I mean, with any luck, Pat and I will get to find out what that's like to be in studio. We had to have one guest appearance rescheduled, and we're hoping to get in at some point.
Oh, okay. So I thought you guys still have a chance, because I know he'd mentioned when he brings you guys up, he's not interested in the pot talk, obviously.
Not at all.
He's still willing to bring you guys in.
From
apparently we got a new date, and we weren't going to necessarily go in there and be like, oh, Kirk, what was your favorite way of consuming marijuana?
Right, of course. Yeah.
Like, I wanted to talk to him a little bit about Jackie. I met Jackie a couple weeks ago at Giggles. I watched the documentary recently. I wanted to see if he had watched it. Stuff like that. I mean, I got other stuff to talk about besides weed usually. Yeah. And he'd obviously ask us probably some stuff while they're just in the middle of discussing things. So,
sure.
Yeah, I think it would be fun. He thinks it'll be awful. Good chance of that too, but I don't think it would be as awful as, say, Yellow Shirt Guy or that girl they had in the other day.
And she was applying for a job. She was very quiet.
Yeah, she wasn't applying to be on air, though. It is interesting. Like, I thought his point was interesting of having a straight-laced person in there.
Yeah.
That is definitely an interesting dynamic, because even, like, sure, in her, interview, she's probably not going to open up too much and get involved. She doesn't know what the fuck's going on. So she's not going to be like, hey, well, here's why I think Dave should be fired. But, in 6 months, 8 months, whatever, once she's more comfortable in the job and everything, maybe she will open up a little more and you will get more out of her on air. And that's what I think is interesting about someone like that. But.
Sure.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's probably her boyfriend that's the fan.
Well, not even probably. She said, Dave asked her if she was a fan, and she said, yeah. And I assume she is. I assume she's listened. But there were little things like she didn't know Justin, or wasn't completely familiar with Justin, stuff like that. I say little. Justin was a... if you listen to the show, you know who Justin is.
Oh, yeah.
So I'd say that's a glaring one, probably.
And her lack of reaction to the voicemail, to Justin's voicemail with the 11-year-old voice on it.
Yeah. Well, I would even say the lack of reaction to what was she was in there for like what became a legendary episode, probably.
Right.
The day Dave got fired or quit or whatever you want to call it, and she wasn't like, "Holy fuck, what's going on?" Now that might also just be her personality. I don't know, but yeah, because she said, my boyfriend's a big fan and he got me into it, and he mentioned to me it was also like she didn't say I heard on the show that you were looking for a job. It was my boyfriend told me. So, yeah, probably it was the boyfriend, but who knows?
Yeah, I listen all the time when he's listening and I happen to be in the room.
Right.
So that all makes sense. What else?
So without saying...
I make a great guest. You have 3 things to ask me, and you're like, what else do we have for this fuck?
Mike, that's an indictment on us, not you.
This is us. This has nothing to do with you. Is it Steve's job, though? Like, should it be Steve's job if it's not going to be Colleen's job?
Well, I assume Kirk would give it to Steve. The fact that Steve left the show and went right back into politics, like, it's not like he left the show, took some time off, and then started doing like a show like Kirk's. You know what I mean? He reverted back to what he was doing before. So I think he just likes that world. And with Steve, this would probably be different just from hearing Kirk talk about how much he respects Steve and everything. But I know, like, when I've heard him talk about, like, I was a big, when I listened to the radio show, I was a big Tangway guy.
Yes, me too.
And people would always say, like, oh, when are you going to get Tangway in or whoever? And he was kind of always, he's like, I just feel like that's going backwards. I remember him using that terminology a lot.
He said backwards. The same about Mutt, though. And then as soon as Mutt was able to come in.
Him and Mutt are genuine friends, though. So I feel like it could be the one exception. Maybe I'm wrong, but...
And I like when Mutt's on the show too.
Yeah,
He seems to be a big 420 boy guy. He was a little disappointed. He was a little disappointed that we got bumped out of our original date.
Oh,
because
we get him on here.
We needed to. Well, we should probably reach out.
Fit right in too.
He might. I think we know he enjoys the other Vice.
Yeah, he's got some demons. You could get that out of him.
We could probably maybe steer him towards maybe using.
Get him on the high fives.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Hey, 0 calories, man.
He's trying to keep in shape, unlike some of us.
I'm trying.
Yeah. I recently started eating all salads for lunch because the gut's getting too much.
Oh, good.
There's also a gotcha moment in Plymouth.
That happens. Pictures come out from Minifan gatherings. So, Mike, do you think in 2 years we'll end up getting the chance to play cornhole with Dave?
Maybe even less than that. I could see Dave at a cornhole event or something in the not too distant future. I think I said on the show today that he was distant when he worked for Jerry, but I think Kirk quickly pointed out. I couldn't remember if this was the entirety of his time with Jerry, but like Kirk and Jerry would kind of go back and forth, so Dave maybe just didn't want to interact during that time. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Dave still had a social media presence in the Minifan world.
Well, Dave did have a tweet today, and I hadn't seen him tweet anything in the longest time. He tweeted something out concerning. Remember the Paul McCartney guitar and the.
Oh, yes, I did see that.
So he tweeted out, "Can we throw a rock at the guy's house who bought the guitar or something?" And it was attached to the child that I assume that fundraiser was for getting a kidney transplant.
Well, very classy of him. But I think there's your evidence that he's already like, "Hey guys, I remember references." So yeah, I think we have our answer. Yeah, he'll be at a cornhole tournament.
So do you think he pulled away from the social media aspect because Kirk put a stop to it?
What do you mean?
So he was very active before getting the job as Kirk's producer,
right?
And then I can remember Kirk actually telling him to stop, to not interact as much, and to, the hits had to go away and all that stuff. But do you think that was the only reason why he had pulled back so much, or Dave, that is?
Oh, you're saying like from his personal account interacting with fans?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember. You know what? If I had to pick a time, I remember Kirk giving him shit for tweeting something from his personal account instead of the show account.
Yeah.
I don't remember what that was exactly, but I feel like since then Dave has tweeted noticeably. I could be wrong. I'm not on. I try not to be on Twitter that much, except for my own just posting shit.
Yeah.
But I feel like he's tweeted less.
Well,
since
fine.
then.
And you don't see that I like all the Blind Mike Project stuff, all the Why You Laughing stuff. You don't even look at your.
That's very sweet of you. Thank you.
I noticed that too. Yeah, he doesn't tweet a lot from the personal. He might respond here and there, but it was definitely.
He used to. When I first met him, because like through the show.
Yep.
I would be so I just by happenstance, like someone would tag me in a tweet, and it would lead to Dave would respond, and it would be all day. I'd be getting Cullinane tweets, and I remember giving him shit for that, like the opposite way, where it was all day. He would reply to every single person. So yeah, he definitely pulled. I think in general, I don't know if this is Dave's mentality, but like if you don't have to be on social media, it's probably good not to be.
Yeah,
right. Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, I could see how it could get tough to deal with, especially with the group of people on Twitter that are around this world. We can get rough.
I honestly don't even mean that. I mean more like just in general shit like the one that came immediately to mind is like the Bud Light story or something like that. How like passionate people seemed about that. And then if you just go out in the real world, it's like, oh, people aren't consumed by this all day,
That's a good point.
Going back to the O&A thing real quick. I had a buddy of mine who's a Minifan, and he likens the Minifans and the pests a lot. The pests, he says, Minifans are just like pests, except they're not mentally deranged like a lot of the pests used to be.
Well, I would say even more. Minifans are generally good people. Like every time I've gone to, I think I've met you guys at live shows, right?
Yes.
Yep.
I
tried to get you to smoke a joint once. You said no because you would get in trouble.
It was very smart of me. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've had really a bad interaction with a Minifan in person at all. Whereas like the Opie and Anthony fans were mentally ill. Like if you went on Reddit, it was a genuine cesspool. And after the show broke up, they were trying to get people fired. Like the worst of the Opie and Anthony crowd was the worst of the internet, really. And I don't think that's true of the Minifan. I think I heard Portnoy on with Kirk today. And he
I haven't had a chance to watch that yet.
He reacted to something just kind of like he was joking around, but Kirk said something to the effect of like dealing with the Minifans can be tough and Portnoy. I was like, oh God, like, you have no idea, sort of a reaction. Yeah. And it's funny that like a guy like Portnoy gets all like he has the fucking New York Times writing about him, and still he reacts like that to the Minifans. But I genuinely think it's like online shit talk. You know, like I've overreacted to shit, but at the end of the day, no one's like crossed a line or anything ever on social media that I've seen.
The way those guys in that Opie and Anthony subreddit turned on the both of them,
it was crazy.
Oh, it was wild. A lot of the stuff though, I would be looking through it and it would just be like, oh my God, I would start laughing just because it was so out of control.
Yeah,
and it was just
that was their fault because they would kind of encourage that stuff when it was done like to their enemies.
Oh yeah,
that's where I think Howard was always smart, and I think Kirk's smart in this aspect too, where he's like if people are being fucking morons online, he'll call that out.
Yeah,
you know. Whereas Opie and Anthony would just like kind of laugh at it and they encourage that type of shit. That's where it's like I don't think anyone should ever get in trouble for what their fan base does. Right. I think when people say like, "Oh, you're responsible for your fans," I think that's idiotic. But there is some like you can encourage them to do certain things, certainly, and I think Opie and Anthony were. You could blame them for that, certainly.
Minifans would call radio stations to try to get in show references. Opie and Anthony fans are posting prolapsed assholes on radio station Facebook pages. So
it was a different breed,
slightly different. Yeah.
Oh, that was wild. So do you think when he's pretty much doing like a producer type tour now? It looked like he did the guest tour for a little bit when Clemmer left, and now he's going to do the producer tour, and he's going to have different producers in, I guess.
Well, I think that'll be shorter lived. He said something like the guest thing is here to stay. More like I think he likes the rotating people, but the producer thing will be for the rest of the month, if that. You know, I think it's possible that even before that, if he just decides on someone, especially if Cullinane like has to leave for a job or whatever, he might just be like, "All right, Justin, you're in 2 weeks," or whoever the case may be.
So, Pat happens to know a guy who has a lot of experience. Do you think we might be able to get a line to Kirk to get this person a tryout?
I mean, I don't see why not. I would reach out to Dave, I guess.
Yeah.
If that's your advice, I'll tell him to do that. I just thought it would be kind of weird reaching out to someone and be like, "Hey, I'd like to come in to try to replace you."
It's not a terrible point. I just don't know who else to tell you to reach out to.
Right. Yeah, he works at 98.5 right now. He's my brother, so it'd be funny to get him in there just at least one time just to try it out.
Yeah, I would say reach out to Dave. Because maybe it'll be awkward, but that's I think what Dave's doing with all these people is saying to Kirk, "Hey, this guy's resume is okay," or whatever.
All right, I'll let him know that then.
Now, with Dave leaving, is part of the interviewing process for a new producer that they have to give you a ride into the studio?
No. If it's, I'm sure Justin would offer that, but no one else. I wouldn't expect that. It's quite fine.
Not part of the description.
I did hear you say, "Oh no, now I'm going to have to Uber in," and I laughed at that. It just made me laugh.
Oh no, you know what I was referring to is home that night. I think.
Oh.
I forget why I said that, and then I remembered right after I said it. I remembered. They're staying to do a podcast after the show.
Oh yeah, so I forgot about that. Didn't even have to do with that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty good. Because I assumed that's what you were talking about.
I may. I don't remember the exact reference. It's possible I meant that, but
I like it better your way.
thank you.
It's funnier. But that being said, we filled a half an hour, and I don't want to water it down by reaching for questions.
Okay.
I think it's been actually a lot of fun so far.
Cool.
And like I said, I don't want to water it down. So unless Pat has anything else, I'm good.
I appreciate you coming on, Mike, and giving us a little bit of your time for this. We'll see what the audience thinks.
Yeah, I think we'll probably have our best. We're lucky to get 100 views even on KMN, so we'll see if we can top that. It is the first time I believe that I'm on screen with somebody who has worse vision than I do, which is odd for me because my eyes suck and yours are worse. I'm not blind.
Are you? What do you just wear glasses, contacts?
I have the thickest glasses you've seen. Or you haven't seen. I'll next time you're at a live show, I'll let you feel how thick they are.
Well, if there's Sacco, we gotta have you come visit the 420 tent. If there's you don't obviously have to partake.
No peer pressure. No peer pressure.
Thank you, boys. I appreciate you not pressuring me to look cool in front of you guys.
Although we might grab some seltzers.
All right, boys. Well, thank you for having me. It shows how much I've done in my illustrious career that 20 minutes in, you guys are like, well, that seems like about it with this asshole. So,
like I said, no, and that's us.
I'm kidding, boys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Anytime.
All right. See everyone next week or next time, as it were.
Stars falling down, but that's fine with me. Chaos all around me, but I finally see nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. Drop top, yeah, maybe. But my pocket's been looking tight lately. I've been looking for somebody come to save me. It's not my fault that you've been making me go crazy. Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I'm soaring with the clouds, I'm in my zone. I hear you talking loud, leave me alone. You had it all, you gave it back. You had my heart, girl, that's a fact. You got it wrong, you never asked. I'm getting stoned, what's wrong with that? Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. What
are those clips right Chris Smith doing?
Damn Chris Smith doing. Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high.
Fucking dumb Canuck.
Finally notice me, you make it so hard to breathe. Yeah, hard to breathe, but I smoke. Stars falling down, but that's fine with me. Chaos all around me, but I finally see nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. Drop top, yo, baby. But my pocket's been looking tight lately. I've been looking for somebody come to save me. It's not my fault that you've been making me go crazy. Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. Nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high. I said nothing's going my way, I'm just gonna get high.
We're not offended by it.
This guy's nipples. Can you touch his nipples? Yeah. Bro, touch his nipples. They're fucking fire.
Oh my god!
Go get a bigger man.
Oh my god, they're serious! They're serious!
Who's their nips?
They're serious!
Yes? Hey guy, another gotcha moment! Holy fuck.